Alex is an ignorant mystic. He is unaware of the powers of procreation. Well, one he might be too familiar with, but the others he remains woefully naive. Unbeknownst to Alex, he is the cause of all his joy, yes, but also his suffering. For he can create not just with the organ between his legs, but between his ears. When a man enters into full possession of his inner mystic, he starts to use his mind as a wizard would a palantir. And when he starts to marry the effects of the mind with the strong, boundless feelings of the heart, he creates a kind of mental intercourse with himself. In the same way you can procreate on the level when you bring both seed and egg together, you can create whatever you want when you bring both the mind and you bring the heart together. So I'm going to share with you in this video the most powerful factors you can use in order to influence that very matter. And I always like to begin referencing some powerful scripture, beginning with the Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 117. The originator of the heavens and the earth, when he decrees a matter, he only says to it, be, and it is. In a not too dissimilar fashion, we hold a spark of that divinity, maybe with a little more lag time than the divine one. But are we not his essence? Are we not a fragment of the divine? Have we not been cut from the same cloth and imbued with some of his majesty? And in a similar dimension, these 7 key techniques, you can start to enter into possession of mystics like Neville Goddard, of course. You can reference Rudolf Steiner here. You can reference those very frustrating and irritating people in your personal life who seem to just get what they want by fully, or maybe indirectly and fully, inhabiting the model and ideal of the inner mystic. So we're going to begin with number 1. The first step into entering into that palantir kind of consciousness is first by ascertaining and developing a singular pointed consciousness. Here are the steps. Know exactly what you want. Not a general idea, but something specific and exact that perfectly reflects your true desires. In my experience, when you do these techniques, being vague isn't enough. It's not enough. You have to be detailed. You have to add nuance. You have to make this idea vibrant, and you bring it to life in this way. You give it your consciousness by giving it all of your consciousness. It can't be an idea that you think about half-heartedly while scrolling on TikTok, or otherwise having your consciousness occupied by something else. Some of the individuals who are tremendous at the technique that I'm going to share with you are natural daydreamers. They would have been at school and the teachers constantly coming over to them and going, why is your attention always wandering? Why can't you just focus on the written material here? And those individuals, if they don't lose that because school and that system crushes creativity and squashes it out of you, it stops you being magic in many, not just in many ways, in a very real way. If you can hold on to that majesty, and then life becomes by your design almost very, very naturally. If you want your dream body, know what it will look like. If you want a certain sum of money, know how much to the dollar. If you want a partner, know who you want. Specifics, hair color, stature, faith, hobbies, interests, eye color, all of these things. You need this requires work. It requires work on your part. But remember, as Krishna told Arjuna, you have the rights to the work, not to the fruits. The imagination process is the fun part, is the really interesting part, is the very much enjoyable part. And I would have you make love to that part, put it in different positions, spend your time really fleshing out and designing your life. One of the ways that I did this was on the very software that I'm sharing this particular video with you. It's called Xmind. And I have a similar X-mind for how I've designed my life, with no detail left up to chance. The more specific you can be, the greater you'll be able to influence and discern ideal matter into the quantum. One remarkable thing I learned through studying this particular topic, not just Neville Goddard, but his contemporaries, Joseph Murphy, Joe Dispenza. You can also talk about an individual, Dawson Church, had very interesting material on this, is that consciousness collapses matter. Matter doesn't come first. Consciousness comes first. Everything collapses around consciousness. And that's why consciousness, when you singularly point it in one direction and then you impregnate reality with the feeling, things happen very, very quickly, scary quickly. Because the feeling is the spell, is you starting to wave your, for lack of a better term, magic wand or staff. Maybe let's do a magic staff. I like the idea of a staff better. And that is the marrying process to this. And I wanted to share with you Mark chapter 11, verse 24 with this. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. The key discerning point in what I'm sharing with you here is feeling gives the imagination energy, and that energy then starts to collapse into physical matter. So as Mark was saying there, it's not enough to have the idea, it's not enough to point consciousness in one direction, but you have to impregnate your consciousness with the feeling. And that feeling is that it is already done. Ask yourself what you would be feeling right now if you were who you wanted to be. If you were the man that you fall asleep dreaming about, what would you be thinking about right at this very moment? Would you be thinking about craving, longing, desire, not having? Certainly not. Certainly not. By feeling, it is meant at an innate level of awareness. Where would your mind be if you were the person you wanted to be? How would you think in relation to the world in your new state? Perhaps you're onto bigger and better things. Perhaps your mind is in a constant state of contentment because there is a certain familiarity with the grandness and the composure of your life. Certainly a way to think about it. The third point, imagination as your palantir, as a crystal ball. Here is where you must create a scene that implies that you have already achieved your goal and that it is seen in the past. Perspective is important. If it's in the past, you affirm to reality that it is already done, similarly to how it was referenced in the Quran. Something that you can add sensory vividness and tones of reality to. Great way to do this, because sometimes your mind can be scattered if you haven't done this before, is to write it down before you go to bed. We'll talk about theta, brainwave, in a moment. So journal what that scene might be. It can be challenging to come up with it on the spot, as I've mentioned, so taking the time to relay your consciousness into a singular dimension is very, very resourceful. And I put a little example down here, sitting at the dinner table while my beautiful girlfriend cooks me my favorite meal, steak and eggs. There's certainly more tones to this, and when I mean by tones, it's very valuable to go through every single sensory field that you're picking up information from in reality. So first, think about what you can see, then what you can hear, then what you can smell, what you can taste, what you can feel. And the more and more you do this, the nervous system doesn't know the difference between an event that is recreated by your palantir and something that is unfolding for you in real life. The fourth point, changing your state like a mystic. Get ready for bed before the time you usually become sleepy, and get ready to induce a sleepy state. I didn't mention it here, but I should really emphasize that the most important part, perhaps I'll add this in now in a little summary, is intention. I truly believe intention is the casting of a magic spell. It is framing your nervous system and your consciousness to go down a certain pathway. It is a decision. I can't overstate how important intention is in this equation. If you have minimal intention to do this evening, this will not work. If you have full intention to do this, you will enter the state akin to sleep, as Goddard called it, which is a sleepy, semi-lucid, very, very groggy, very, very mystic state. Kind of feels like your body has no weight. And this is where your subconscious mind is in such a prime position for brainwashing or reprogram, you can put it. But you cannot get there without intention. Sometimes I have people, I'll write it when I'm doing this myself, I'll write down, I am going to get into a sleepy state tonight. And again, notice how I'm phrasing that word. It's not, I would like to, it is, I am going to. There is a discernment, there is a sense of execution, deliberate intention in the words I'm saying. One way to do this is to lie down in bed and calm yourself. And personally, I can get in a drowsy state by lying down in a fetal position. Again, I'm not too groggy at this point. I'm fairly awake. Your body and mind will start feeling floaty if you've done this correctly, as I mentioned before. The key is to not fall asleep, and you do that with your intention. Another good way to keep that intention is with a mantra, which is a posture for your mind. A mantra is a posture for your mind. And the posture you want to keep your mind in is mind awake, body asleep. Mind awake, body asleep. If you keep repeating that mantra, this should be very, very easy for you. The fifth point, we've already talked about intention keeping the spell alive. A couple of other points to highlight here. Keep your mind clear, but do not become so drowsy that you fall asleep. Your body will get heavy. As the mantra before delineates, the body falls asleep, but the mind stays awake. Do not allow your mind to wander. People who are keen meditators will find this very easy. Keep the intention fixed on imagining your scene. And the crossover point from mind awake, body asleep into your scene is when you start to feel your the consciousness of your body get heavier, and that floaty feeling is starting to induce. And then you go into rehearsing your scene from the first person, which is critical. Just wanted to share another passage from the Gita before I go on to how to warp the nervous system to a different paradigm. Let a man lift himself by his own self alone. Let him not lower himself, for he alone is the friend of himself, and he alone is the enemy of himself. And the reason that I shared that with you is because men and women are indirectly or directly causing their own joy and suffering. The process I'm sharing with you here is something that many people do unconsciously, and this works in reverse. As I mentioned there, it's not just a consequence of bringing joy into your life, but it's bringing misery, apathy, anxiety, anything, if you're not consciously using your palantir with intention. So you can, in many ways, you can look at what I'm sharing with you here as a kind of instruction manual for how to use your mystic mind to the best of your abilities. Now, very, very crucial step here. You're in the semi-lucid state. Begin enacting your scene, and begin enacting it from the first person, you looking out your eyes, not you looking down at yourself. While it will not be as vivid as the room you are in now, it does not matter. Continue enacting this scene and focus on new details each time you loop it related to your senses. So I mentioned this before. What can you hear? What can you smell? What can you see? What can you taste? What can you touch? Make it vivid. Tell yourself that what you're seeing is real. Narrate what is in front of you and what you are touching and feeling, that it is true and real. I can explain the feeling other than pretending that what you are imagining right now is real. Just try it. Don't worry if you're applying it right. Just imagine that it is true. Just think that what you are seeing is what you wanted to see. Some people are naturally very good at this, and these are the daydreamers. They really are. For some people, there can be frustration in concentrating too much on the outcome and waiting. But the truth is, if you were the individual that you wanted to be, there would be no waiting. It would happen like that. And that's what the real shift is here. Some people even describe this as reality surfing or timeline jumping, whereby you're just moving your consciousness from this particular incarnation into a parallel reality where you have what you want. There is no lag time between that. You are that person now. If you were going to live tomorrow as the person who had everything that you wanted, how would you live it? That's how you should be feeling. That's how you should be living. That's how you should be thinking from that individual's perspective. And the last one, blessed be the divine, because it has already happened. Keep yourself in the scene and do not worry about anything else. Remain faithful. Remain faithful. Repeat it over and over. Soon you will actually feel as if you were in the place of your imagination, and soon you will fall asleep. If you kept that scene repeating and legitimately tried adding as much sensory vividness as possible, you should wake up with a feeling like it is done. It has happened. If you do not have this feeling, imagine that you do and continue the process next night. Experience has taught me, however, that if you legitimately try the technique with the best of your abilities, with strong intention, casting that spell with that palantir, marrying it with that feeling, creating mental intercourse, that's all you need. That is all you need, and the procreation will not be far behind. Gentlemen, I'd be very interested to hear what your feelings are if you've experienced maybe the natural daydreamers. I'd like to hear from you because, like I said before, these individuals are very good at just thinking about something, having a positive emotion with it, letting it go, feeling as if it's already done. Next thing you know, reality has collapsed like a collapsing star into place and it is done. Getting free meals, people giving them money, getting inherited with a lot of money, meeting individuals that they haven't seen in years, serendipity and synchronicity, essentially. And if you subscribe to any value in here, gentlemen, then you can subscribe to me. And these aren't theories, these are facts. Speak soon.